Hello and welcome back. I'm the Big Shot Critic, and today, Spectre, the 24th Bond film from 2015, gets the Big Shot treatment. Now, it's kind of a stinker, so we're going to look at what they were trying to do, and then we're going to look at what actually happened. And also, I have some insights about it that I've never heard anyone else talk about, and I want to get those out there. Let me start by saying once again that Spectre is not that good. The ending is bad, the action is weak, and the main crux of the plot is horrible. Now, when I review a bad movie, the first thing I want to find out is what they were trying to do. And my insight into that is the main reason I wanted to make this video. James Bond is the title character of Spectre. Spectre is a double meaning. The first meaning is obviously the organization, Spectre. But it's such a dull title, especially for a Bond movie. Now let me lay this out for you. Skyfall, the prior Bond film, was written by Bond regulars and then worked over by John Logan. Spectre was written by John Logan first and then worked over by the Bond regulars. John Logan is a playwright known for heavy drama and rich subtext. Sometimes his subtext is a little too rich, so that there's no normal text. It just all gets pushed aside as the subtext bubbles up everywhere and the script descends into nonsense. Think Tennessee Williams. You get the idea. Like most Bond films, Spectre has the gun barrel sequence at the very front of the movie, and that leads right into the pre-title action scene, right? Wrong. It leads right into this. An epigraph on a James Bond movie. I can tell you exactly how this happened. Sam Mendes, who directed Skyfall and Spectre, and also has a background in stage and theater, grabbed his buddy John Logan and they went on down to the Bond producers and told them their idea about an epigraph. And Barbara Broccoli and Michael Wilson looked at each other with a face like this. Which means, it's a weird idea, but hey, Skyfall made over $1 billion. Maybe we should let them do it. So they got their epigraph on a James Bond movie. Congratulations, John Logan. So, the dead are alive. What do you call a dead thing that is alive? A specter. Now look at the cover of the movie, which is also one of the theatrical posters. The dead in the background, that's Bond in his Day of the Dead costume from the opening scene, are alive. In the foreground, that's Bond in his white tuxedo from the train sequence, which is a reference to Bond's white tuxedo from Goldfinger, but also, what color are ghosts? They're white. The movie begins with him in the Day of the Dead costume, and then he sheds that costume and goes into action. The dead are alive. And in Skyfall, James dies when he's shot by Moneypenny, and later tells Silva that his hobby is resurrection. The dead are alive. Franz Oberhauser dies and becomes Blofeld. M dies and sends Bond on a mission after her death. Sciarra dies and in death leads Bond to Blofeld. Mr. White dies and sends Bond to his daughter.
I didn't want anything to do with him or his sick life. And then with his dying breath, he sends me you.
All over this movie, people are dying and still doing things. What do you call a dead person that is acting on the physical world? A specter. And which specter's on the cover of the movie? It's James Bond. James Bond is the title character. And don't forget the Bond song, which also has supernatural overtones. The writings on the wall is a centuries-old expression referencing the Old Testament. A hand appeared and wrote on the wall, right in front of King Belshazzar, prophesying his downfall, and he was killed that very night. It's an expression that means your doom is foretold, and there's nothing you can do about it. I think the song is misdirection, so audiences think Bond is in danger because the writing's on the wall for him. But really the writing's on the wall for Blofeld, and Bond is the Spectre that's going to see that through. And that turn is even reflected in the dialogue when Blofeld shows Bond the meteorite.
A huge, unstoppable force.
Except it did stop, didn't it? Right here.
I believe I've made my case. James Bond is the title character of Spectre. Now, as interesting as all that is, it's good for nothing because the movie is boring. This is the classic John Logan blunder I was talking about. Too much subtext gets too much into that, and nothing else happens. People go to Bond movies because they want thrills and excitement and good action and adventure. Spectre just doesn't have that as much. Certainly not as much as it should. You can have the most interesting, meaningful, insightful subtext ever, and it won't make a bit of difference if your movie is boring. In the end, we never even got John Logan's full vision because the end of the movie was rewritten so many times. Whatever John Logan had in mind for the end, that's not what we got. So the thrills and excitement were sacrificed for nothing. Which means John Logan didn't only make a huge miscalculation, he didn't even see it through. Now, Sam Mendes, on the other hand, he committed a dang crime. He messed with the canon. He made James Bond and Ernst Stavro Blofeld brothers. Foster brothers, but still brothers. Besides being boring, this is the other reason James Bond fans really don't like this movie. It's a stupid idea. Any way you slice it, any way you look at it, from any angle, it's stupid. And I can tell you how this happened too. Sam Mendes says Skyfall is about two brothers fighting over their mother. And he says Spectre is about two brothers fighting over their father. And when you put it that way, it makes it sound so nice and neat and tidy, doesn't it? What a nicely matched pair of movies, right? Wrong. You can piece together the timeline here from various interviews and such, but here's how I think it went down. When Sam was working on Skyfall, there would have been little discussions here and there about the future and story threads you might pick up. Sam got really hung up on the tidbit from Fleming that after being orphaned, Bond spent some time being raised by this man, Hans Oberhauser. And he got hung up on the idea, what if there was a brother that was overshadowed? At this point, the brother would not have been Blofeld, because Eon Productions couldn't use Blofeld or Spectre in their Bond movies since Diamonds Are Forever, for really complicated legal reasons. 1 year after Skyfall released, however, those legal reasons were resolved, after 40 years. And you know how movie producers are, the very instant they get their hands on something. The Bond producers are no different. They gotta shove it in there as soon as possible. So you have this director who's really stuck on this brothers thing, and you have two film producers who suddenly have the rights to the Blofeld character. And unfortunately, the two come together. Casual moviegoers might not know this, but Blofeld is the big baddie behind 6 of the first 7 Bond films, and he's the main antagonist in 3 of those. Now go with me back to 2013. What was the entire movie industry obsessed with in 2013? Shared universe. The Avengers had just come out and blown everyone's minds and changed the world. And they just got the rights to Blofeld. Of course they're going to retcon the previous 3 films. It was Blofeld all the time.
Me. It was all me, James. It's always been me.
Legally, it wasn't. And why did the producers let Sam Mendes mix the brothers thing with Blofeld? Like I said earlier, Skyfall made over $1 billion. Just let him do it. So a picture starts to form of how all this horrible stuff happened.
Sometimes things just go bad.
So we have a writer who wants rich subtext or bust. We have a director who wants this brothers thing or bust. We have producers who want Blofeld or bust. And the bad luck for all of it to come together at the same time. However, some good luck did make it through. The brother thing is stupid, but the inferiority complex with Blofeld is at least interesting and allows for some great jabs from Bond.
I see we're meant to be impressed.
I know hardcore Bond fans will say it's also stupid because that's just not Blofeld, but I didn't become a more hardcore fan until after Spectre came out, so for me, it gets a pass. The first time I saw Spectre, I didn't understand things like why the Spectre meeting went so long and slow, or why Blofeld was asking Bond to kill him at the end, and when I finally realized he had a massive inferiority complex, that all came together for me, and the movie made a lot more sense. That's why I count the inferiority complex thing as a plus instead of a minus. Also, we get the great jabs from Bond. He just deflates Blofeld at every turn, and I kind of love that. It's a very funny Bond film, especially the scenes with Q. And Q and the rest of the MI6 gang get quite a bit to do in this movie involving the globalist subplot. Which is another big selling point for me. It's literally James Bond versus globalists. He's taking down globalists, and what is not to love about that? The big bad scheme in Spectre is that Blofeld wants access to the combined intelligence streams of 9 countries, so he causes chaos and violence, so his political disciple Max Denby can convince those 9 countries to merge their intelligence streams. And it all gets secretly siphoned to Spectre. That's globalism. And one organization causing chaos in one hand and promising to prevent it in the other hand is something we have seen a lot recently, and that makes this movie super relevant in my mind. In the real world, I know people far worse than Blofeld have access to everything I do or say whenever I carry this around. But I'd like to spend 2 hours in the fantasy where James Bond puts such things to an end. The last saving grace of Spectre is the cinematography by Hoyte van Hoytema. And this comes with a bit of a story. I give you a tale of 3 cinematographers. In 2014 and 2015, Hoyte van Hoytema had the toughest job in Hollywood twice, back to back. In 2014, he had big shoes to fill. He was doing the cinematography for Interstellar with Christopher Nolan, replacing Nolan regular Wally Pfister, who had won an Oscar for Inception and was considered one of the best in the business. In 2015, he had even bigger shoes to fill. He was doing Spectre with Sam Mendes, replacing Skyfall cinematographer Roger Deakins, who at that time had been nominated for the Oscar 11 times and has since been nominated a further 5 times, winning twice. Deakins isn't considered one of the best in the business. He's considered the best in the business. And our man Hoytema did amazing work both times. His work on Interstellar was nominated for billions of cinematography awards, and I think Spectre nearly rivals Skyfall for beauty. Sam Mendes continues to work with Roger Deakins when he can, and who can blame him? But Hoytema has continued his collaboration with Christopher Nolan in all his films since, Dunkirk, Tenet, and Oppenheimer. As for Wally Pfister, Nolan's ex-cinematographer, he went off to try directing, which is why he needed a replacement in the first place. Back in 2013, he directed Transcendence, which didn't really deliver on its premise. Since then, he did some TV work, and his latest credit is a promotional video for Hyundai back in 2019. Yikes. Let us hope he has gone on to a deeply satisfying career outside of film. I can't watch Spectre without thinking about those 3 cinematographers and Hoytema's amazing work with such tough acts to follow. Well done, Hoyte. Your hard work paid off. Even if it did Hoyt a little bit. So that's Spectre. Just a series of unfortunate events held together by a couple of saving graces. I have a couple of end notes here. The movie really wants to make Madeline a big deal. You're meant to believe by the end that Bond would actually quit MI6 and just drive off with her. Blofeld has a throwaway line somewhere in there about how, as the daughter of an assassin, she's the only one who could truly understand him. And just in case you missed that, they actually put it on the box. The daughter of his old nemesis Mr. White, who may hold the clue to untangling the web of Spectre. As the daughter of an assassin, she understands Bond in a way most others cannot. It's just weird. I have to agree with Bond YouTuber Calvin Dyson that Madeline doesn't feel like a special Bond girl. She doesn't feel like a Tracy or a Vesper. She feels like a Goodnight or a Kissy. Just another Bond girl. Obviously, No Time to Die took that a little further, and now it is what it is. Did you know Irma Bunt was going to be in this movie? She's an original Fleming character from 2 of the books who is Blofeld's right-hand woman and lover, maybe? The lines are kind of blurred there, as I understand it. All we know about her inclusion in Spectre is that she was going to be tall, and she was going to have the hots for Madeline. The tall part is a departure from Fleming, but the lesbian part somehow feels very Fleming. I had no idea they were going to do this, and I was totally blown away when I found out during the research for this video. And it's not even a rumor, it's actually true. I would have loved to see what Irma Bunt would be like in the Daniel Craig era. I'm picturing Emma Stone. Another note, am I the only one getting serious Mace Windu energy from M in this scene? And the last note here is that I appreciate that Spectre gave us a proper villain's lair for the first time in the Craig era, and maybe for the first time since GoldenEye. An argument could be made for Carver's stealth boat or Silva's island, but Blofeld's crater felt like a really good lair, complete with absurd guest accommodations that make no sense but were a great reference to Dr. No. I just liked it. So that's what I have to say about Spectre. It's kinda good, but kinda really bad. Truly a baffling Bond adventure. But hopefully less so now. It just helps me to understand at least what they were trying to go for, what they were trying to achieve. Even if they missed. Just in case I do review all the Bond films, we have to have a competition between all the Bond actors, which means I have to give Spectre a rating. I'll give it 5 out of 10, which means Daniel Craig maintains a much smaller lead over Roger Moore with 7.5. And nobody else is placed because I've only done 3 Bond movies. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. This is a lot of fun for me, and I really appreciate your time. You can check out more of my Bond content here, or here. And you can subscribe right there. Check out the channel for more. Be sure to like and subscribe, and bye-bye.